Hope Nation. You're listening to the Hinesights podcast, the most mentally stimulating podcast around.
What is crackin', Hope Nation? It's your friendly neighborhood Kevin Hines, and this is yet again another episode of the Hinesights podcast. I'm here today with a very special and important guest, a man whose life was transformed by unthinkable tragedy and who's since turned that pain into a global mission of hope, healing, and of course, purpose. Dr. John Gibson was a respected dental cancer specialist at the Institute of Dentistry at Aberdeen University, known for his brilliance in the field and his commitment to care, but everything changed when he and his beloved wife, Isabel, lost their son, Cameron, to suicide. That moment shattered the world they knew and became the catalyst for something much greater than grief. From the depths of unimaginable sorrow, John and Isabel rose with the resolute mission to make sure no family ever walks in the path alone. They founded the Canmore Trust, a powerhouse charity dedicated to suicide prevention, safety, and support, not just across Scotland, but around the world. What began as a deeply personal response to loss has grown into a movement, a message, and a mission of compassion and driven change. John is now writing a profoundly moving book chronicling his family's loss, survivorship, and journey, a story of heartbreak, humanity, and hope that will no doubt serve as a beacon for others who are navigating the storm of suicide loss. His story is courageous. His heart is open, and his voice, quiet but unwavering, is one that the world needs to hear. Please welcome to the Hinesights podcast, my friend, my new friend, a father, a change maker, a truth teller, and a powerful force for good and suicide prevention. Dr. John Gibson, how are you?
Hey, Kevin, thank you for that introduction. I'm doing fine today, thank you. You and I have met today, we met yesterday, and maybe we can talk towards the end of our discussion about the importance of that for me, because you played a huge part in me moving from this place of utter carnage as a result of Cameron, our son's death, to starting to breathe again and starting to live again and finding purpose in the Canmore Trust. So I'm hugely grateful to you, and I didn't know you were coming to the conference, and I'm still reeling a little bit from meeting you, so great to see you.
It's great to see you too, John. I'm glad you're here doing the work you are. Glad we got to collide on this mission together in a positive way. We are at the International Association for Suicide Prevention Congress 2025 in Vienna, Austria right now. And Vienna, Austria is the birthplace of suicide prevention as it stands. It's the place where the first folks began studying suicide and studying how to prevent preventative methods could save lives. Namely, Sigmund Freud was involved, many other folks involved in that effort. And we've been discussing a lot about the Werther effect and the Papageno effect while here in Vienna. You're from Scotland, as you can tell by the accent, and we're glad about that. John, can you tell us first and foremost, I think the most important question of today, in this moment, a question I ask all of my guests, is how is your mental health right now today?
That's a great question, and I appreciate you asking it. Such an important question. It's good, but it's challenged because I've spent the last 2 days in an environment where we're talking very openly about suicide. And so for me that is activating in my grief, because we're only 5 and a bit years out from the death of our beloved son, Cameron. He was the youngest of our 3 children, 24 years old. He was a veterinary surgeon. And I've just been at a session this morning where I've been hearing about the increased rates of suicide within the veterinary profession, not just in the UK, but in the United States of America as well. And I was in the job that you had described. I'd gone into strategic planning and leadership within the university context. And I was 15 months into that new job when 2 police officers came to our door and said, "Are you John Gibson?" I said, "I am." And they said, "Sir, please can you sit down, because Cameron is dead." and it appears that he has taken his own life. And my first reaction was, no, you have no idea what you're talking about. This must be another Cameron Gibson. Our Cameron Gibson is this beautiful man with no clear background in psychological distress, doing the job he'd always wanted to do with this great group of friends round about him. And you're knocking at my door and telling me my son is dead? No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You need to find the right family to tell them this story. And that was the start of our catastrophic and incredibly difficult journey. And there will be people listening, watching, for whom this is a journey that they've been on. And I just want to say, I'm so sorry that you have found yourself in this journey too, because losing a child to suicide, losing any family member to suicide is so terrible. Yeah. But I wanted to jump up from that chair and run past the police officers and time travel back and say, no, Cameron, no. And I couldn't do it. And so that then led to us as a family. So you mentioned Isabel, my wife. We have 2 other children, Malcolm and Ailey, both older than Cameron, so boy, girl, boy. Very close family. And the question that just bore into my skull for the 8 months after we lost Cameron was, why did you not talk to me, son? Why did you not text me? Why did you not phone me? And then an event happened in the June of 2020. Cameron died in October 2019. And we came through the start of COVID.
Yeah.
And then I got to June 2020, and many people listening will understand the importance of firsts in the suicide year. You're the first Christmas, the first New Year, the first birthday, the first whatever. So I got to my first Father's Day without him. And in the same week, his birthday, he would have been 25. And I got through to the Friday afternoon, and I decided that I didn't want to be here anymore. That I'd been such a failure as a father, that I hadn't protected my son, I hadn't cared for him. Whatever had happened in that catastrophic moment when he decided that he didn't want to be here anymore, I thought, I'm going to make sure that he's safe. I need to be where he is to make sure that he's safe. And so despite the balance of a beautiful wife still alive, a beautiful older son still alive, a beautiful daughter still alive, all fighting and contending to make life meaningful and good again, and the grief about Cameron, the whole scale just went like this, and he won the day. And I found myself making an attempt on my life. And I then had 4 months of real struggle. Every day I wanted to die. And it was so difficult. And there were tablets, and there were medicines, and there was therapies, and there was this, and there was that. But just the reality was I was grieving, and I was catastrophically grieving. And I just couldn't find a way ahead at all. And then a couple of things happened, Kevin, and you'll like these stories because I decided to walk. And I became like Forrest Gump, and I put a little backpack on my back, and I set off to walk. And over the space of the next few months, I trained and I trained and I trained, and I decided to walk from Land's End to John O'Groats, from the very southwest of England to the very top, the northeast of Scotland, 1,207 miles. And yes, we raised funds for the new fledgling charity. We'll talk about that in a second. But much more important than that, this was about pulling in people who had found themselves in isolation, people impacted by suicide who couldn't speak to their families anymore, families that had lost and were so catastrophically grieving that they couldn't lift their heads off the pillows in the morning. We said, come and walk with us, come and talk with us. And we opened up a national conversation about suicide. And there were a number of pivotal moments, but 2 pivotal moments. One was before I set off on the walk, I was in the hills of Scotland in one of my last preparatory walks. And I always get emotional when I tell this story because it's so impactful. And I'm not sure whether I'm talking about a real person or an angel. I'm honest when I say this to you because I fell into step with this young Frenchman, and here he was, this was now 2021, and I speak some French, he spoke some English. As we walked for about 6 hours together that day, the story came out that during COVID, his elderly father had died as a result of the COVID pandemic. And then, so this chap was 24, his younger brother, 19, had taken his life as a result of his grief in losing his father. And so this young man was lost, yeah? And he'd come to Scotland, he'd heard the hills in Scotland are beautiful, and he heard that the people in Scotland were kind, and so he thought he would find a place to find solace. And we walked that day, and we had an amazing healing experience as we talked. And he said to me afterwards, he said, "You need to set up an organisation, a charity that cares for people in the aftermath of suicide, because this has been helpful for me today to have this discussion." And so I guess that was the challenge, that was the calling, because I think it was a calling to set up the Canmore Trust. And the Canmore Trust, Canmore, C-A-N-M-O-R-E, an anagram of Cameron, yeah, our son, with the sense that we can do more and we must do more. So that was the first story. And so we set up the Canmore Trust, and the walk from Land's End to John O'Groats, 1,207 miles, was an attempt to call people together, but it was also a call to governments to action, to say we need to do more about this. And we raised funds, we raised money to start the Canmore Trust. But there was one particular moment as we walked, there were so many, and I'm writing them in the book, but there was one particular moment which just galvanised everything for me. And I pulled back a little at lunchtime. I was sitting eating my sandwiches, and there were 3 families sitting just in front of where I was. And each of these families had lost a son to suicide. And each of these 3 families had never met another family impacted by suicide, despite the fact it was 3 or 4 years since they'd lost their beloved boys. And I saw these families engage. I saw these families speak to each other with heart and saying, well, maybe we could talk some more. We don't live far from you, so let's talk next weekend. Oh, you have an older son, he's really struggling. My older son's really struggling. Maybe they could meet together. And suddenly there was this sense of community, this sense of connectedness. And I stood up from my sandwiches and I said, we're going to do this and we're going to do it well. So we're going to start this program of support, postvention support for families impacted by suicide. And that's what we've done. So that's what the Canmore Trust is about. We have 3 levels of training. Our level 1 training is taking people who have been directly impacted by suicide, so you must have lived experience. And then we take you and we train you as a volunteer. And after that training, which is intensive, which is impactful, you're able then to work with an individual or a family impacted by suicide. So that's our level 1 training. And as part of that, we also have our continuous development training. So we meet for 2 hours every month. The whole team meets. We talk about the tough stuff that we've faced, our own self-care, all of that. So that's part of being a level 1 trained volunteer with us. Our level 2 training is about working with individuals impacted by suicide in the workplace. So where there has been a suicide in the workplace. And this is so important. This has been such a neglected area before now, because many of us spend more time at work than we do with our spouses. Many of us spend more time at work than we do with our families. And so when we lose someone at work, it's deeply impactful, but there's so little research on it. There's so little about how to intervene in those circumstances. So that's our level 2 training. And then, of course, although we're a suicide postvention charity, good quality postvention is all about prevention. You know, if you get in those early days and you work with families, and we go into the homes of families where there has been a suicide, you lessen the risk of a subsequent suicide. And we need to remind ourselves that if you've lost a first degree relative to suicide, you carry a 15% lifetime risk of also dying by suicide. Yeah, this is impactful stuff. And so getting in there early and talking that through and finding which battles you're going to fight, you know, protecting your marriage, protecting your relationship, because that gets challenged as well. All of that stuff is in there. And good quality postvention means that we lessen the risk of further suicides. And that's what we love to do. But prevention then says, well, what are you going to do? Get yourselves upstream and deal with the socio and economic factors that might influence further suicide. And so our level 3 training is working in schools, getting into schools and sharing the story of hope, saying suicide is never the answer. Yep. Suicide is the problem. The additional problem is never the answer. So how can we help you in the midst of your suicidal crisis? And the figures for the United Kingdom are stark. So 1 in 5 young UK men and women under the age of 35 will have a suicidal crisis. 1 in 5. 20%. And we can't do a blood test, we can't do a brain scan, we can't work out which of those group of 50 kids in front of us is going to be in that 20%. So we need to train everyone, we need to teach everyone, so that they can also reach out to their friends and their colleagues in future life and say, you're struggling. And we teach them this, we teach them, you see someone struggling, you don't just walk away from it. You go over to them and you say, you're not so good today. Are things so bad that you might be thinking of taking your life? Such an important question. Don't shy away from that question. Don't lessen the impact of it. Are you thinking of dying by suicide? Are you thinking about taking your life? And that's the question that saves lives. And we teach our volunteers, we teach the kids to do what we call the double bounce, which is you ask the question once, are you thinking about taking your life? And the answer for the most part always is, no, don't be daft, come on, let's go and have a beer, it'll be fine tomorrow. No, don't take that first answer, double bounce the ball again and say, no, I'm serious. Are things so bad that you're thinking about taking your life? And that's the moment when people say, do you know what? I am. This is a tough gig, I am. Yeah. And that's the moment when you get a chance to say, come on, let's see if we can fix this together. Let's see if we can talk together. Let me hear your story. Where are you at? Listening and affirming and walking with someone through the most tough of days. That's what we're about in the Canmore Trust.
It is unparalleled, the incredible work you're doing and how you are working to save lives across Scotland and beyond with the Canmore Trust, with your story. You are in the middle of or about to write your book about your family's experience. What do you hope is the end result from the publishing of that book and how it will touch lives who've been in similar situations as you and your family and your wife and your other kids?
That's a great question.
What do you see the result of releasing that story?
So, integrated into the whole story is the fact that the Canmore Trust is founded on 2 key principles. The first one is safe space. So are you in a safe space? Okay. And for many people that may be a physical safe space. You know that story. Cameron knows that story. But for some people it's a mental safe space. For some people it's a marriage safe space. For some people it's a relationship safe space. Yep. So we've dealt with people, 2 women come to mind immediately, who were making an attempt on their lives separately because both their male partners, who were keen football fanatics, were beating their partners up, their female partners up, when their teams lost. Okay? And these women felt the only way out was to take their lives. Can you imagine that for a moment? Yep. And when they came to us, and they came separately over a period of months, we were able to say, no, you need to get to a safe space. So they found a safe space, a physical safe space, where suicide was no longer a necessary option for them. And so we use this concept of safe space in quite a fluid way. Is it a mental safe space, an emotional safe space, a physical safe space? And we found that a really helpful illustration for people to wrestle with. I can understand what you're asking me. So safe space is really important to us. And then really importantly, and the second founding pillar, is finding purpose. Okay? Now, when I was in psychiatric support and seeing a psychologist, she kept asking me about, you will find meaning in Cameron's death. And I found it really difficult, and I rejected her challenge to me because Cameron was 24 years old, Kevin. He was at the height of his career and his life, and we've lost all of that potential. And a professional is asking me to find meaning in that. Not a chance. And so I think there's a mistake here when people ask either suicidal people or people impacted by suicide to find meaning. We struggle. So for weeks we kept having this question, you're going to find meaning. What meaning are you going to get out of this? So I rejected it. But then I thought, what about purpose? Yeah. And it was actually through reading David Kessler's book, Finding Purpose, the sixth stage of grief, because I didn't like his book. I didn't like the fact that he was talking about finding meaning, and then he asks about finding purpose. And I thought, great, I've arrived now. I've found purpose. And so the Canmore Trust was my finding purpose. But it wasn't just about that. It was about this. It was about meeting people impacted by suicide. It's a two-way street. That's finding purpose for me on a daily basis. It's not just the strategic planning of the Canmore Trust, it's still doing the face-to-face work with clients, with the schoolwork, etc. So to answer your question, what are people going to get out of that book? They're going to be challenged about, am I really in a safe space? So as I go about my business, you ask me how my mental health is today. My question in the book is, are you in a safe space today? Yep. And if you're not, what are you going to do about it? Okay, don't live in an unsafe space, because that's a cumulative gathering of suicidality. Let's find you a safe space. And then secondly, what's your purpose? And in that purpose there is hope. And you talk a lot about finding hope. My hope is that in reading that book that people will find real hope. Yep, because we've been in a pretty dark place. We've lost our son, and I've been suicidal. Yeah, this is a double whammy. Yeah, and yet out of that has come this amazing sense of hope. Yeah, and that's not to say I don't have my dark days still. So please don't think this is a panacea. John Gibson stands up from here and skips off into the sunset and everything's fixed. I would hate people to think that. But I want people to realise that I'm now part of an amazing suicide community who ask me, like you did on a daily basis, are you okay? You doing okay? Where are you today? What are you at today? I've got an amazing Chief Operating Officer, Anne, who, we went for a meeting the other day and she said, you're not good today, are you? And I said, no, I'm feeling dreadful. I've just dealt with a couple of really difficult clients and I'm not sure and I need to just vent. And she said, let's go for a walk. And I got it out, we talked it out. So I talk about this thing called the suicide community, and please, I don't want to be part of this suicide community. I would much rather be over living the life that I had lived prior to 2019 when Cameron took his life. But I am part of it now, and I'm utterly grateful for it because I've met the most amazing people in it. And they encourage me, they affirm me, and they give me hope. Yeah. And that hope is not just that if you're suicidal today, that we might help you to find a safe space and purpose to move forward, but also for the future, also thinking, what does tomorrow look like? But what does the day after that look like? And the year after this look like? Finding purpose is so important. And so that's what this is about. It's about safe space, finding purpose.
It's beautiful, John. And you and your wife, Isabel, are doing great work. I would love to know, where can people find the Canmore Trust and how can they get involved?
Okay, great. Wow, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we have one portal of entry to the Canmore Trust, and that's to protect those who want to contact us, and it's an email address. So it's admin, A-D-M-I-N, admin at thecanmoretrust.co.uk. So everything that comes into the trust comes into that inbox. And if it's for me, it goes to me. If it's for other people, it goes out from there. But that's our safe space. That's our secure space. So anyone feeling impacted, anyone feeling they want to speak to us, that's the portal of entry. Admin at thecanmoretrust.co.uk.
Admin at thecanmoretrust.co.uk. If you want to talk to John, his team, want to get involved, that is the place to go. Or thecanmoretrust.co.uk, just the general website as well. John, I'm going to ask you one more question. Well, more of a, less than a question, more of a connection. We met yesterday for the first time, and we're here at IASP, or IASP, what they call it, 2025, and you saw me and you said some beautiful words, and I'd like to just, if you could recount that moment for me, because it was really impactful to me. It was really impactful to my lovely wife, Margaret. It meant the world to us what you said, and we're now friends forever, friends for life. Anything we can do to help, we will.
Thank you.
I would love to hear your perspective from that moment, if you will.
So I was sitting in a seminar yesterday, and this man in a smart suit came in and sat over here, and I thought, I recognise that man, didn't think any more about it, couldn't work out who you were at all, listened to the presentation, and then at the end of the meeting, as you stood up and turned around, I thought, this is Kevin Hines. And you knew what happened. You came towards actually to speak to Sharon, the lady who was with me, and I just started to cry because I had no idea you were coming to this meeting. I had no idea you were going to be in this seminar. And what you didn't know was the importance of what you had written in my journey. So I first of all saw you on a YouTube clip or whatever it was, and whilst I was suicidal and struggling every day with suicidal thinking, I saw this YouTube clip, and in it you say that as soon as you left the parapet of the bridge, that you knew you'd made the wrong decision. And that was so impactful for me because I was having these suicidal thoughts all the time. I had planned to take my life. And here was someone saying to me, no, I've been there. I've been on the other side of that, and it's never the answer. And you really cut across my suicidal thinking. Really cut across it. You stopped me. And then I thought, well, I better read about this guy then. Who is this guy? Yeah. And so I got The Art of Being Broken. The Art of Being Broken. Yes. And so, of course, there's two parts to that title. There's The Art of Being Broken. So I was broken, and I really identified that as you identified your own brokenness, both emotionally and physically in the book. And I couldn't get enough of it. I think I read it in about 4 hours flat. I sat down and it arrived in the post, and I read it. But the second part of the title and the second part of the book is the importance of the narrative, the importance of storytelling, the importance of me, John Gibson, telling John Gibson's story. Yeah. And so that was the second part of it. So you cut across my suicidality. You made me think, no, there has to be another way. And then the second part from the book was, and you're going to tell your story. Yeah. So just as the young Frenchman had said to me, you're going to start up a charity and you're going to look after people who have been impacted by suicide, you're going to assist them on their journey. This was the second part of the calling. And this was, and you're going to tell your story, and your story is going to save lives. Yeah. And it was literally a calling. It was, both of those parts are like a calling. It's a spiritual calling to do this. Yeah. And so I started to tell my story, and it was your invitation to speak into the lived and living experience space. And I've been pretty bold in doing so. At a time when my family said, oh, let's just be quiet, let's just pull back. I said, no, I got to speak. And I realized it was part of my grieving, it was part of my type of grief, that speaking out for me was so important. Telling Cameron's story meant that Cameron was still with me, Cameron was still alive. I was still able to talk to him and bring him into the room as we've done today. Thank you for that invitation to bring Cameron, my son, into this conversation. Thank you for allowing me to bring Isabel and Malcolm and Ailey into this conversation. That is so important. We're still a family, we're still together. And that has been your gift to me to allow me to take that and say, yeah, you're broken, John, but you're going to get better and you're going to tell your story because that's going to save lives. So thank you.
John, no, thank you, because every time someone tells me that this or my story or a part of my story helped save their life or helped change their life, it lights a fire under me for me to keep going, for me to keep trying to help, for me to keep trying to give back. And I believe giving is the true receiving. And I firmly and formidably believe that our purpose on this earth is to give to others, not the other way around.
I love it.
And John, I couldn't be more grateful to meet you, to hear your story, to share your story with our listeners, viewers, watchers, and subscribers. But I'm going to do one further. When your book is released, John, we're going to put it at the top of my website, and it will live there for a period of time to help you further your mission and to help your story save lives. We are going to share your mission, and it'll live on the website forever in some way, shape, or form as it goes on. And we hope that it reaches the right people, and that from my book to you, and then from your book to the people that visit my website,
Amazing.
It's going to change their lives.
Amazing.
So John, thank you very much for coming on the Hinesights podcast. I couldn't be more grateful to sit here with you today. We appreciate you. You're loved, you're valued, you're worthy, and suicide is never the solution to your problem. It is the problem, and you're meant to be here until your natural end. And
Thank you,
and we love you, buddy.
Such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
Friends, family, this has been another episode of the Hinesights podcast. Whether you're going through pain yourself and you're thinking of suicide, or you love someone who you've lost this way, I'm asking you to keep going. I'm asking you to never forget, never give up, never give in, and to fight for your purpose. Find your why so you can live your how. You deserve it, and you deserve to find a life worth living. Be well, take care, and be here tomorrow. See ya.